so keep walking, over.
So 72 hours after the attacks, I found myself at Ground Zero. And it was an absolutely horrifying place to be. In between Ground Zero, I would start there at about 5 o'clock in the morning and work until about 1 in the afternoon. And then I would travel to the Family Assistance Center and stay there until about midnight. So I had to fly into Philadelphia, and I took an Amtrak train from Philadelphia into New York City. And in Grand Central Station is where the train stopped, and the doors opened, and right in front of me was all of those pictures of the missing people, one photo after another. And it hit home to me very hard that these were the people that I was going to be meeting, their relatives, their loved ones, their moms and dads. And I walked down that row of photos. It probably took me an hour. When we rounded, though, the corner and we went through this third security checkpoint, I just stopped dead in my tracks. I literally couldn't breathe, and it wasn't because of the air. There was so much devastation. It was like walking through a black and white movie because there was no color anywhere. Everything was covered in debris. There was 5 inches of just soot on the ground, and you're walking through this. It was so quiet. You would hear the machinery as it was trying to move debris out of the way in hopes of finding survivors. And at that time, the families weren't allowed to go to the scene, and they had not seen what we had seen, which is a blessing. And so I would have to talk to families and know that I couldn't dash their hope, but I knew in my heart that their son wasn't coming back, their wife wasn't coming home, their child was gone forever. And it was so incredibly painful day after day. I met a woman named Blanche. This was 8 days after the attacks. So I started talking to her, and she had lost her son, Eric. He was 32 years old, and he worked in Tower 2, and same story. You know, he called her that morning, "We're evacuating the building, we're gonna be just fine, don't worry, Mom, I love you." I talked to Blanche in March of this year, and they had just found Eric's body the week before. And she said to me that it was the biggest blessing that she could imagine, because they had a peaceful place that they could go, and they never had to go back to the hole in the ground to remember him again. And I thought to myself, wow, that's what terrorism does. It makes recovering a body a blessing. It was horrifying. But I'm so glad, though, that we had our conversation, because out of the thousands of people that I met, I have one story that I know the ending to. But there is hope in all things. You would see things that just would remind you that people are inherently good people. And I was at a blood drive, and a woman that I was talking to with AmeriCredit Corporation was just saying, "I've never given blood in my life." She stood in line for 6 hours to give a pint of blood. You know, and I reflect on those things today, and it really is what keeps me going. I think 9/11 is a day of tragedy, but it was a day of tragedy responded to with incredible compassion and caring from people all over the world.